What is up, guys? We're back with more picks and predictions. This weekend, we got UFC Vegas 104 back at the Apex. Pretty decent card headlined by Roman Dolidze and Marvin Vettori. You're going to see that, Marvin Vettori is a slight favorite in this matchup against Roman Dolidze, which is super interesting to me, but more on that later on. Let's go into the recap of UFC 313. We absolutely crushed it on the premium side, so let's recap those bets and then hop into the picks and predictions for this weekend. All right, so to recap our bets for UFC 313, like I said, absolutely destroyed it. Clean sweep, 100%, went 6 for 6. We had a straight up bet on Ignacio Bahamundez's money line. I put that up while he was an underdog at plus 100. I think he peaked at around like plus 110, maybe plus 115 early in the week. Definitely was going to play him. Ended up going out there getting the first round submission. I think retiring Jalen Turner. And then after that, we had a 1.5 unit bet on Ruffy's money line and Joshua Van's money line. I mean, with someone like Joshua Van, man, he's getting better and better every single fight. And you saw his takedown defense on display. Both these guys had a really good performance. Obviously, Ruffy, KO of the year type of performance for him. We were pretty confident on him always. But with Joshua Van, there was a little bit of, risk on the Surya side because he is that heavy grappler. But, Joshua Van definitely held that one down. We had Bruno Ferreira's money line. He ended up getting the submission on Armin Petrosian. And then after that, we had a 2-leg parlay on Castaneda and Gutierrez to go over 2.5 rounds, and then the Limoges versus Lucindo to go over 2.5 rounds. The Gutierrez leg voided, so it was just a minus 269 straight on Limoges versus Lucindo, which was pretty locked. That one ended up hitting. We had Joshua Van round 3 or decision. It was kind of, a little bit scary to double up on Joshua Van prior to the fight, but he did hold it down. He did exactly what we thought we were going to do. And when you have someone like Surya grappling, you know that, the fight's going to extend. So Joshua Van by volume punches in round 3 or decision. He won it by decision. That one cashes in. Then we had the Ruffy minus 3.5 plus Pereira and Ankalaev to go over 1.5 rounds. Similar thought process on Pereira versus Ankalaev. There's going to be the grappling threat in that matchup. I think that both fighters are going to take it slow. We saw the over 1.5 be obviously easy to cash in because that went all 5 rounds. But that one cashed in, and then the Ruffy minus 3.5. That was just a little bit of a hedge against a Ruffy KO. Obviously, if Ruffy gets the KO, you win that. But just in case Green doesn't go down and Ruffy wins all 3 rounds, then you also win that bet. But Green did go down. Could have easily put Ruffy KO instead of Ruffy minus 3.5. Just something I like to do with the little bit of a hedge with the minus 3.5. But that one cashes in. So a total of 4.5 units in. We profited 4.05 units on that. So 90% profit, 90% ROI. Swept every single bet on this card. Really good. Really needed that one. Had a little bit of a shaky start to 2025 so far, but this one definitely comes in clean and helps up with a lot of the ROI all time. So yeah, we're going to move on to the picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 104. And definitely, if you guys do want to check out Premium, it's $20 a month, which comes down to just $5 per card. And you can sign up on kopicks.win. When you sign up on the website and join Premium, you can then access our bets, unit sizes, the odds we got them at directly on the website. So definitely check that out if that's something you want to do. Join our Discord. Our Discord's free. You can always DM me there if you have any questions. And yeah, let's move on to the picks and predictions for UFC Vegas 104. All right, up first, we got the most skilled matchup possible in MMA. We got Yuneisy Duben versus Carli Judice. I'm going to keep this one short because, to be honest, you shouldn't be betting on this, and the line is absolutely insane on this fight. We have Carli Judice as a minus 400 favorite. She's 3-2 in MMA on a 2-fight skid, losing to low-level comp. I mean, her best fight was probably a split decision loss against Ernesto Carrasquet, who, is a decent striker in the UFC. On the other side, you have Yuneisy Duben, who you're going to see a little bit of hype on her because she was a plus 700 underdog or something like that in her Contender Series matchup against Shannon Clark, where she knocked her out in the first round with a big overhand. So yeah, super overlooked on the betting line. Once again, super overlooked on the betting line. She's now plus 380 or something like that going into this matchup, plus 330. Yeah, going into this matchup. And I mean, no way you bet someone like Carli Judice at minus 400. Duben has the power. Duben has, she's just going to throw hard. And someone like Carli Judice, I mean, in her last fight against Gabriela Fernandez and in the Ernesto Carrasquet fight, I mean, she does get hit. So, I mean, Duben lands big. Judice can get hit. This probably just goes to like a weird split decision where, Judice probably lands the volume. Duben lands the bigger shots. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, maybe Duben finds the finish with landing a big shot, but I mean, it's women's MMA. So if I'm going to have to bet my life on it, it would probably go the decision. And if it goes the distance, it's probably some type of weird split decision. And I'm going to pick Duben because she's going to land bigger. but Judice is going to land more. I can tell you that. And yeah, we're going to keep it super short. Don't bet on this fight. Let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got Josiane Nunes versus Priscila Cachoeira. I'm going to go with Nunes. I mean, we're 2 for 2 with low-level women's MMA when it comes to this card to kick it off. So, big smoke break to start the card. But Nunes, I mean, she's going to be like the one that's probably going to bully more than Cachoeira. It's going to be hard to bully someone like a Josiane Nunes. She throws with more power. She throws more volume. Her striking defense is a little bit better. I don't see this fight going to the ground either. So, seems like Nunes kind of has her covered in all aspects. The only, I guess, difference here is that, I mean, Cachoeira is 5'7", but at the same time, Nunes still has the reach advantage here. Yeah, I don't really see Nunes losing this one, but once again, super low levels women's MMA. Really hard to trust these fighters, and let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got Andre Lima versus Daniel Barez. Now, I actually like Daniel Barez a little bit. I mean, he's tough. He does definitely have some power. He has okay boxing, and, he can mix it up with wrestling, so he's decently well-rounded, but he's one of those fighters that, ends up just being kind of mid everywhere. And I rewatched his fight against Victor Altamirano, and in that matchup, he did win by unanimous decision the first 2 rounds and then gave up the third. You can see his cardio does fade quite a bit. In the Jafel Filo fight, he hurt him early, but his cardio started fading late in round 1 in that fight as well. So Daniel Barez, he's going to come out super strong, but his cardio will fade quick. And as it fades throughout the fight, he just becomes slightly less dangerous going through it. And then we have Andre Lima. He's 10-0, looked pretty decent. He's coming off that unanimous decision win to Felipe Dos Santos, where Andre Lima, who's primarily a kickboxer, primarily a Muay Thai fighter, actually kind of used a lot of wrestling and control time to beat Felipe Dos Santos. But you'll see that with a lot of these shoot box fighters. They're super game on the feet. They're super game when it comes to striking, and they just like bite down on the mouthpiece and, go into the exchanges. So it's hard to kind of point fight and pick apart a shoot box fighter like Felipe Dos Santos. But then they kind of lack in the fight IQ. And Felipe Dos Santos, for example, has the worst takedown defense I've ever seen. And, he got taken down by Victor Altamirano like 8 times against, Andre Lima. He'd go in for like a sloppy takedown, miss it, and Andre Lima just kind of reversed it and took him down and just then sat on him. There you go. He loses 30% of the fight right there by losing the round since he's unable to get back up. Now, in this fight, sure, Andre Lima's going to want to keep this one standing against Daniel Barez. The one thing I saw in the Victor Altamirano fight is that Altamirano stood in southpaw, and there was tons of openings for kicks to the head, kicks to the body. He was actually like lighting Barez up with those kicks. It's just the fact that, Altamirano not throwing with insane power, Barez kind of eating these kicks and moving in. So that's something to take note of. Outside of that, I think that, Lima keeps this one on the feet. I think if Barez tries to use his wrestling, where I think that if someone does use their wrestling, it's going to be Barez. I think if he does try, Lima showed decent takedown defense against Felipe Dos Santos. Felipe Dos Santos, like I said, in the wrestling department, I think is pretty terrible. So not too much to say there. But I also do think that, Lima, big, stocky, he's going to be slightly bigger than Daniel Barez in there too. I think he can definitely keep this one standing. Outside of that, yeah, I feel like Lima's going to have a lot of kicks. He's going to be able to land with a little bit more power. He's definitely the cleaner striker. And Barez with the fading cardio, it's hard to not pick Lima here. So Lima's going to be the pick. Next up, we got a UFC debut in Josias Musasa versus Carlos Vera. Josias Musasa is minus 700 in his UFC debut. And, looking at his record and kind of doing the tape, he is extremely aggressive. This is not a guy you want to fight. He definitely has insane power, especially for the weight class. He will headhunt. He will look for the finish. But he's going up against Carlos Vera, who is, fairly well-rounded, decent jiu-jitsu on the ground, especially off his back. He can actually work. And the reason why I think, that might be a little bit important here is because against Josias Musasa, Musasa realistically will probably knock him out in this fight. He's going to be my pick. Probably will knock him out in this fight. But if someone like Carlos Vera, who is fairly durable, does kind of weather the storm, then, you can definitely see this going pretty south for Josias Musasa. So, if Vera comes out there and gets like dropped in the first round and Musasa really lets his hands go, but, Vera covers up, ref doesn't call and the fight keeps going, I think a live bet on Carlos Vera could be pretty insane, especially if Musasa has, kind of thrown everything he has to kind of get that finish. I can definitely see the, tides turning in this fight. But outside of that, Musasa is probably going to get the knockout here. That's what's going to happen. But minus 700 for a favorite when, I can kind of see it going down that way where fight doesn't get called. Musasa kind of, gets a little bit tired and someone like Vera picks it up, puts the pressure on him. Yeah, that could potentially happen, but Musasa is going to be the pick. Next up, we got another UFC debut. We got Diyar Nurgozhay versus Brendon Ribeiro, and Diyar making his debut. He's fighting out of Kazakhstan, and he's actually a really good prospect, especially when I look at the betting lines for this card. You're going to see a fuck ton of heavy favorites. Diyar at minus 355. I mean, we just broke down Josias Musasa at minus 700. I think that, Diyar at minus 355, probably a way better spot than Josias Musasa. I'm going to pick Diyar to win this matchup. Big favorite in his UFC debut, going up against Brendon Ribeiro. And, Ribeiro, I picked him in his last fight, I think, against Kyle Machado. He did win. He was an underdog there, too. So, Brendon Ribeiro getting a lot of plus money on him. Bookies aren't really giving him, a lot of the respect. But in this matchup, I think he's kind of cooked. Diyar is, pretty good wrestler. We've seen him knock people out. We've also seen him go to a decision and just grind the win. I like seeing that. We've seen him kind of, grind through the adversity. So he's got the wrestling. He's got big power, decent on the feet, and, pretty explosive fighter. And then Brendon Ribeiro, Ribeiro is also an explosive fighter. He can definitely find the finish, does have the power to get it done, and, can be a little bit crafty with the jiu-jitsu as well. But when it comes to this matchup, I just think that Ribeiro is just going to look pretty mid everywhere, and Diyar is just going to put the pace on him. So I think Diyar is going to be my pick. Let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got Sam Hughes versus Stephanie Luciano. I'm going to go with Luciano to win this one. Sam Hughes, she's not going to be the cleaner striker. This fight probably does not go to the ground either, and it probably just goes all three in a striking match. So Stephanie Luciano is going to have the cleaner strikes. She's going to be, the faster one. She has a reach advantage as well in this matchup. But Sam Hughes, her normal path to victory is simply just being gritty, just being a bully and just walking through for tons of forward pressure onto her opponent and just kind of trying to break them. And it does work, especially in low-level women's MMA. This definitely works. So if you're betting Sam Hughes at plus 200, I don't hate it. It is what it is. I think this fight probably comes down to some sort of weird split decision where, some of the judges might reward the forward pressure of Sam Hughes. Some of the judges might reward, Luciano's cleaner striking. It's going to be kind of hard to predict which one's going to happen there. I'm probably not going to bet this fight, but Luciano is going to be my pick because she is more talented and she is more skilled. Next fight on the card, we got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Ryan Spann. And I'm going to go with Waldo Cortes-Acosta to win this one. I think that, Salsa Boy can get it done. Ryan Spann going up a weight class to heavyweight. Normally the lighter man does do well up weight classes, but I think that matters a little bit less when you're going from light heavyweight to heavyweight, where, both weight classes seem to be just kind of full of blobs to some degree. But, Ryan Spann, one win in the last 3 years, and that win was, over Ovince St. Preux, who was kind of just done at the time. I think that was the fight that retired Ovince St. Preux, if I'm not mistaken. He did get the Gilly in round 1, but he's fighting Waldo Cortes-Acosta. It was coming off that win over Robelis to Spain. That was the first Robelis to Spain fraud check, and then he got fraud checked again after that. So, Robelis to Spain is ass. We all know this, but Waldo Cortes-Acosta in that fight, he ate some big shots, and then he just went and took Robelis to Spain down over and over again, like people tend to do. So he showed decent fight IQ there, and that was the first Robelis fraud check. So I was actually on Robelis for that matchup. That was his very first fraud check. Before that, he was knocking everyone out in 1 second. So, a little bit. I think it is fair to have bet Robelis that night. But outside of that, Ryan Spann, he is dangerous. He does have power. He definitely does have better submissions than Waldo. But Waldo's a better boxer. I think Waldo's going to be quick, and he's going to be bigger. And I like the fact that he's bigger in this matchup purely because it's probably going to be harder to get the wrestling off for Ryan Spann. And I don't think Ryan Spann is going to be able to. I think, Waldo Cortes-Acosta can definitely defend the takedowns coming his way. And then I think in open space, he is a much cleaner boxer. And I think he's going to be quicker and slicker as well. So Waldo Cortes-Acosta is going to be my pick. I think he could knock out Ryan Spann, but at the same time, I feel like, if this does go decision, I wouldn't be surprised. I probably lean this going decision, actually. And yeah, we'll move on to the next one. Next up, we got Su Young Yu versus AJ Cunningham. Su Young Yu is also listed as a minus 700 favorite for this fight. A lot of these lines on this card are just absolutely wild, absolutely unplayable. But Su Young Yu, it kind of makes sense. AJ Cunningham, pretty shitty takedown defense, and Su Young Yu, we know is going to kind of incorporate a lot of that wrestling into his game plan, primarily wrestling in his game plan, actually. So he does get AJ Cunningham down in this fight, and I think he kind of rides this one out to a decision. On the AJ Cunningham side, though, I think all the danger kind of lies on the AJ Cunningham side. I do think that, if AJ Cunningham does want to kind of offensively wrestle Su Young-yu early on in the fight, that could potentially pay dividends, but it's too specific of a game plan to kind of focus on. The odds are also cooked for this fight. Maybe the one line that you could potentially play on this fight is AJ Cunningham as a finish only line, because I think that he is dangerous. He could find a knockout blow out of nowhere. But outside of that, Su Young-yu is going to be the pick, but minus 700 is absolutely insane. Probably not going to play that one either. Next up, we got Damon Blackshear versus Cody Gibson. This is the main card opener, I believe. And as I go through this breakdown, I kind of just think that this is actually a pretty boring card to break down. Tons of big favorites, like I mentioned before, and I don't think I'm really coming with any insane insights. Normally, I do like picking dogs. I do sprinkle in a bunch of different dogs that I like. But in this one, all these big favorites, I mean, their paths to victory seem pretty linear, and it's just kind of hard to, build a narrative for the dog. And obviously, you don't want to force it when it comes to picks, especially building narratives such as, Alex Pereira beating Ankalaev. I mean, based on breakdowns, Ankalaev had more paths to victory. In hindsight, it does look 2020, but at the time, you do build narratives for specific outcomes. But this weekend, I feel like, all these large favorites probably do come through, but, I also probably not going to bet majority of them, specifically, at least not straight up. Maybe look for some props here and there. But outside of that, I mean, Damon Blackshear versus Cody Gibson, once again, super linear breakdown. Damon Blackshear is going to smoke Cody Gibson on the feet for sure. Cody Gibson's coming off a win to Chad and Helliger, and he was kind of getting smoked on the feet in that matchup too. It was kind of his wrestling that got him through that matchup, got him the dub. And against Damon Blackshear, I mean, Damon Blackshear is going to have more to offer in the wrestling department than Chad and Helliger did. He's going to have better takedown defense. He can throw some stuff up offensively as well. So, when it comes to that, just Damon Blackshear can be more well-rounded. On the feet, I think Cody starts getting smoked. And, I just see Damon Blackshear pulling away, maybe even 30-27 in this matchup. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Blackshear to get this one done. I don't see Cody Gibson really having a path to victory here. I do think the odds are pretty wide, and Cody is durable, and he can be a dog. So that is something to look out for. But outside of that, yeah, let's move on to the next one. Up next, we got Alexander Hernandez versus Kurt Holobaugh. And, Alexander Hernandez, pretty well-rounded, pretty gifted, has, decent tools everywhere when it comes to the striking and the wrestling. Kurt Holobaugh, on the other hand, is going to be more of a pressure fighter, a little bit less athletic, a little bit worse in the wrestling for sure. He's coming off a win where he did get taken down a bunch of times, and his takedown defense is a little bit suspect. So Alexander Hernandez does have a path to victory through the takedowns, but Hernandez, he's coming off a win to Austin Hubbard, a split decision win over there, and he hasn't shown the best fight IQ leading up to this in his career. Prior to that, he lost to Damon Jackson, then Bill Algeo. Does have a decent win over Jim Miller, to be fair, in 2023. But, outside of that, Alexander Hernandez never been able to string together a bunch of wins, put everything together when it comes to the striking and the wrestling, mixing the martial arts well. Kurt Holobaugh on the other side, I feel like, Holobaugh, he's 38 years old, but, he recently won the Ultimate Fighter not too long ago in his career. I think he won in 2023. And, he was 36 when he won the Ultimate Fighter. So he is in the UFC, and he knows he has to make moves quickly to, make a good little bit of money in the UFC. And I feel like Kurt Holobaugh, with the forward pressure, with Alexander Hernandez's holes in fight IQ, can get this one done. I think he's going to be the more gritty fighter. I do like it. We have seen holes with Hernandez in the past before. So I'm going to take the underdog here. Give me Kurt Holobaugh to get this one done. Probably by decision and probably just by outworking and, just being in Hernandez's face. But if Hernandez does choose to go all in on the wrestling, he can definitely beat Kurt Holobaugh. So that is something to look out for. But yeah, Holobaugh is going to be my pick. Next fight on the card, we got probably the most anticipated debut of this card, full of UFC debuts. And it's Kevin Vallejos, also a massive favorite now. I think he's moving to -5, -600 territory on most books. And he's fighting Sungwoo Choi. Vallejo's going to get this one done. Once again, an absolute massive favorite. But this one, I feel like I can trust a little bit better. Why? Because he does have some decent experience. He's 14-1 with his one loss being Jean Silva. And, we all know what Jean Silva's made of. So that one loss being Jean Silva on the Contender Series. Outside of that, Kevin Vallejos, serious prospect, serious power. Fighting a Sungwoo Choi who stands really tall. And, with these taller fighters, he's 6 foot tall. To Kevin Vallejos 5'7". Sungwoo Choi is going to have his chin up in the air. Maybe Vallejos finds it in the first round. Sungwoo Choi has also been knocked out twice in his last 3 fights. I mean, Yeah, the KO is there for Vallejos. I think he does get it done. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we got Chidi Njokuani versus Alizu Zaleski. This is the co-main event. This is actually a pretty poverty fight card, to be honest. The more and more I break this down, the worse and worse this card kind of becomes to me. And I'm like, oh, damn, really going to have to watch UFC for 6 hours to kind of go. I mean, I'm definitely not watching a bunch of these low-level women's MMA fights. But outside of that, I mean, this fight should be pretty entertaining to watch. Zaleski coming off a win against a short notice replacement who was Zach Scroggin. I mean, I don't think that guy was actually ever supposed to be in the UFC. I think they just kind of needed a fighter, so they brought him up to fight Alizu Zaleski in his last fight. Got knocked out in the first round, did his thing, back to the regional scene, and now he's fighting Chidi. And you see Zaleski out here. He's kind of like almost a 2-1 favorite, and I'm actually gonna pick Chidi to win this one. I think that Chidi, he's 36 years old. Zaleski's 38 years old, so you got a little bit of an age advantage on the Chidi side. Chidi has an 80-inch reach versus 73 inches for Zaleski, so significant reach advantage for Chidi. He's going to be longer. He's going to be faster. I think he's a cleaner striker. I do think you can take Chidi down, though, but I don't know if Zaleski does have the takedown offense to kind of take Chidi down in this matchup, and I think that Chidi's going to, stay tall, stay quick, stay out of range, and I think he can definitely kind of piece up Zaleski over 3 rounds. So I think, I think Njokuani gets this one done. But, I mean, Zaleski, I think, is live to find a finish, clip him somewhere. Like I said in the last breakdown, taller fighters, they're going to stand up tall and, chin in the air. That's going to be Chidi in this matchup, but I just trust Chidi striking a lot more. I think he can definitely, stay quicker, stay busy, decent footwork, and stay out of range for Zaleski. So I'm going to pick the underdog here. I'm going to go with Chidi. Let's move on to the main event. All right, now, in the main event, I'm really surprised the line is moving in the direction that it is. Roman Dolidze is now a plus 140 underdog. I think you personally hit that line. Maybe that's just me, but he opened at plus 115. I thought the odds would go to a pick'em. We just saw Fiziev fight. After a long layoff, he ended up losing. I was surprised that Gaethje was a dog in that matchup. I'm surprised that Dolidze is a dog in this matchup. I'm going to pick, Dolidze to win this one. I think that, he's coming off 2 wins, staying fairly active, got 2 wins in 2024, now fighting, early Q1 of 2025. And Marvin Vettori, man, his last win was Roman Dolidze, but that was almost 2 years ago. Since then, he hasn't fought since June of 2023, where he got destroyed by Jared Cannonier. Really good performance by Cannonier in that fight, though, so it's not like Cannonier was a bum. But, coming off a 2-year layoff, we saw what that did to Fiziev. I think Marvin Vettori, probably not 100% either. I think he does have some sort of shoulder injury as well. At least that's what I'm hearing. So, I mean, I just think that all the momentum, all the narrative is on the Dolidze side. It makes sense. Dolidze has been doing well, looking to climb back in. I'm going to ride with the Georgian. Georgians have been performing well in the UFC recently. And with Marvin Vettori, man, I just think he's going to be one step behind. I think the layoff, the ring rust, that's kind of most of the reason why I think that Dolidze is going to get this one done. But I think he can get it done. I do see it probably going all 5 rounds. I think both these guys are going to be pretty durable. I do think, though, if anyone does find a finish, it's probably going to be Dolidze, but I think it goes all the way. I think Dolidze get this one done. I'm actually surprised that he's becoming a bigger and bigger dog as the week goes on. All right, guys, that does it for all the picks and predictions for this weekend for UFC Vegas 104. I think this breakdown was, fairly kind of regular, fairly linear, not as insightful as maybe some other ones. We picked a couple underdogs here, but really rolling with all the large favorites in this fight. For this card. And I just think that a lot of the large favorites, they might not be worth it, but I do think those guys do get it done. Maybe they should be a little bit less inflated on the sports books, but yeah, I do think they get it done. So interesting breakdown here. I think it's gonna be kind of like a boring card, but I think UFC London next week is great. I think there's a bunch of good betting spots for UFC London as well. So definitely join up on kopicks.win. It's $20 a month, which equals $5 a card. You'll get, our betting picks for this card. And I also put up early betting picks. It's all in the same section. So when you sign up on the website, you can access all of our bets, our unit sizes, the odds we caught the bets at. And you can see all of our bets. So I'll probably be putting up UFC London bets early before those lines move and get a lot wider. And I think there's a ton of decent spots for UFC London. So definitely check that out. Sign up on kopicks.win for $20 a month. Join our Discord. Our Discord is free. Join up. DM me if you have any questions about, premium or anything like that. Or, probably just anything in general. Just join up and DM me. Outside of that, we'll get bets up for UFC Vegas 104. Absolutely crushed it at UFC 313, going 100%, 6 for 6. Needed that clean sweep, and we're going to roll this over into UFC Vegas 104 and definitely keep going into UFC London. So, definitely join up if that's something you want to do, and good luck on everyone's bets this week.